Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I am your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 34, recording this on Thursday morning, a few games before the Vikings travel to Chicago to play the Bears, and so I thought it would be a phenomenal opportunity to have a good friend of mine in the business, Kevin Fishbain, who does a phenomenal job for The Athletic covering the Bears, have him on the podcast to talk about this season over there, how crazy it's been, how the craziness stacks up against the past years covering this team for him. So enjoyed the conversation. It's always fun, and got into the game a little bit. Talked about Brian Flores against Caleb Williams, the Vikings offense against this Bears defense, and I think it'll give you guys listening to this a pretty good feel of what to look for, what to watch in this game, how to think about this matchup. So looking forward to you guys hearing that conversation. In the meantime, please, first, if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. You can hit that button right below. If you're listening on audio, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you're getting us, there's probably ways to make sure you can get future episodes and like and rate and review and do all that stuff. It helps us out and would appreciate that. If you missed it, got some stuff this week over at The Athletic, where I do my day job covering the Vikings. Wrote about the run game and that situation over there. I also wrote about Josh Metellus and his role, and how I don't use the word unique because it literally means one, but Josh Metellus' role with the Vikings is a singular one, dating back to when these things have been tracked. So I had fun doing that story and why he is as valuable a piece to this defense as he is. So please go check that out. Would really appreciate that. Otherwise, please follow us on social media, at Alec_Lewis. Have updates on Vikings player availability and all that stuff. We'll be in the building today, tomorrow, through the rest of the week, getting ready for this matchup that I'm looking forward to. Always enjoy this trip to Chicago. Get to see some buddies, get some good food, maybe watch an NBA game over there Saturday night. So looking forward to all of it, and we'll just get into it. Here's a conversation with Kevin Fishbain, Bears writer at The Athletic. Kevin, welcome to the Alec Lewis Show. I know you've been eagerly awaiting your invite, right?
Yeah, first time, long time, big fan. My first question for you, Alec, is we're recording this on Thursday. What Jersey Mike sub are you getting today?
You've had that plan for days. It's a good question. I'm gonna have to figure something out on the way to the facility. So yeah, you like Jersey Mike's?
I haven't been to Jersey Mike's in probably 8 years.
Okay.
But the last time I went, I enjoyed my sandwich there.
Okay, I appreciate it. That's phenomenal. So Kevin, you cover the Bears. You have for a long time. What is the craziest thing that's happened so far this year?
This season, the craziest thing that happened was probably the starting cornerback talking to fans during a play, which cost the team a game. I don't know if you heard about this, Alec, but they were playing the Commanders. And it's like a last play of the game. The Bears had just come back. They took the lead. It was a Hail Mary situation. And Tyrique Stevenson was talking to fans and then realized the play was going on, raced over, jumped up, tipped the ball into the hands of Commanders receiver Noah Brown for a touchdown. Again, this might be new to your listeners and to you even, but it was definitely something I've never seen before. And I've seen a lot.
Well, we'll get into it, but I mean, what's going through your head when that happens?
Well, so Stevenson, like, I actually didn't see Stevenson in the moment. It was one of those things, like, I saw it as I saw the videos going on in the locker room. As you know, like, one of the things that we do at The Athletic is we write quick little takeaways. They call them, for our readers to read right when the game ends. So I was kind of frantically writing something because the Bears had just taken the lead. And so I actually missed the 12-yard pass that everybody got really upset about before the Hail Mary. I saw it, but I just wasn't really thinking through it. I'm like, whatever. It's like there's no, Bears are not going to lose this game. And then obviously they did. So it was, I will say this from you kind of have two frames in mind when that happens, is like, on the one hand, it's like a moment you'll never forget. Like the way that stadium erupted when he caught the ball was like, from just like totally objectively, it was like a very cool moment. Like to be there, just like a sports, like just as a sports fan, as a football fan, I was like, wow, it was so cool to be in that stadium when that happened. And then you realize the locker room you have to go into, and like as a writer, that stuff just like kills your week when that happens. It just, anything that you have planned that you find interesting. Like, I've been reading a lot of your stuff, and you get to write a lot of stuff that, like, I can't write anymore because this team is just in a free fall. And so, like, now, granted, I didn't think that Hail Mary was going to break the team to a point that I'm talking to you now, and they're on a 4-game losing streak. But, yeah, it was, I mean, listen, and, like, the obituary of the 2024 Bears is going to start with like Tyrique Stevenson talking to fans as the ball's in the air.
The funniest thing is we had, I think it was right before that game, we had at The Athletic just done a roundtable with all of our NFC North writers. So me, you, Colton Pouncey in Detroit, Matt Schneidman in Green Bay. And we were all very positive, I think, about our teams. And you were too. I mean, there was no way to foresee a player talking to fans before a Hail Mary. That game was at FedEx Field, correct?
Yes, I believe they call it Northwest Field these days.
Okay, well, it's so you've covered this league longer than I have. That's the worst stadium in the league, right?
Yes. And I say that as somebody who spends 8 games a year at Soldier Field, which is like might be close. It's top 5.
Yeah, Soldier Field. We were joking about it the other day. They've got like a trough of pretzels, and that's the best thing they've got. It runs out in like 20 minutes in the press box. But I will say, I like the plot of land. I just don't. The stadium's just not great.
Yeah, you get cool views. You get to be on a like Lake Michigan. It's pretty fun. But yeah, the stadium itself. Actually, it's interesting. They kept showing during the Fox broadcast of last week's game. They kept showing Thomas Brown because he's a new play caller and he's calling plays from the booth. And I don't actually, as long as I've covered the team, I don't think they've ever had a offensive coordinator in the booth. And so you never get to see the coach's booth during the broadcast because, like, why would the camera go up there? And it reminded me how terrible the Bears coach's booth is at their own stadium. They're like so cramped in, and I was thinking about it during the game too, because it's on the other side of the field as the press box. A lot of stadiums, it's the same side as the press box. It's on the other side of the field, and I know what that view is. It is not good. It's not ideal. Right now, I said this to somebody this morning. The Bears have as many wins in the United States this year as they have future stadium sites they're considering.
It's the most Bears comment I've ever heard. Oh, you said, the Hail Mary leads the obituary of 2024. But, you've covered this team for a long time. You went viral a couple weeks ago for, I had to bring it up, I would, for your explanation / description / soliloquy about the Bears' issues in terms of alignment, but among executive, head coach, quarterback. I was curious, where does the Hail Mary, that play, rank among the moments that you've seen over the course of your time covering this team that you just, related to winning games overseas?
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of bad losses. I covered a game my second year on the beat in which the Bears were down 42-0 at halftime to the Packers. And I've also, last year alone, they had 3 separate games in which they had, a lead in the final minute of the fourth quarter and then blew it. It's interesting. I was saying to somebody else in the beat this week that, because obviously the Bears lost to the Packers on Sunday on a blocked field goal. And I will tell you, in so many aspects of life when it comes, of sports, we remember the losses more than the wins. I've talked to you about how I coached baseball for a very long time, and I can rattle off these heartbreaking losses when we gave up the game-winning hit and stuff like that. And like before I could tell you about like the great wins that I coached them to. But it's kind of similar, I feel like, as a writer, especially when you cover the Bears, because they haven't had many great wins. But I mean, this is a team, Alec, that like lost a playoff game because their kicker hit the upright and then or the goal upright and then the crossbar and then it fell. Like that, I figured there was nothing that could top that, probably until the Hail Mary. So that's probably, the double doink is up there. It was probably 1 or 2 with the Hail Mary. Oh, but what I was saying is another writer is like, I've so rarely have been on the other side of that. Like, the Minnesota Miracle, again, it's literally called the Minnesota Miracle because things like that don't happen. I've never covered anything like that. And like, I've never covered like the Bears, like, and we were sitting there talking, like, you have to go back to, like, 2001. The Bears won a game on a Hail Mary and had back-to-back wins in which Mike Brown, the same exact player, returned an interception for a touchdown in overtime in back-to-back weeks. Like, just a wild, the probability of that is insane. And, like, you really have to go back that far to find the last time the Bears, like, won a game in which something wild happened and it was in their favor in the final minute. Interestingly enough, the Bears-Vikings game last year in Minnesota, Justin Fields threw that shot to DJ Moore that set up the game-winning field goal. That's like one of the like last like game-winning drive type. It's one of the only ones I've kind of covered probably in the Matt Eberflus era, at least that comes to mind.
What's interesting from all that, and you and I have talked throughout the course of this year, and it's been, I mean, watching from afar and talking to you, like it's so interesting considering the expectations entering the season. And we've talked, I mean, the Vikings fans listening to this know just how far things have come from those preseason expectations. But I was going to segue and get more towards the matchup by asking you, like, if you go back entering the season, would you say the optimism was as high as you can remember? I mean, where would that level of optimism entering the season lie? Because I mean, to me, it's just so interesting to see how far it's gotten back to probably the Bears Mendoza line of kind of expectation in some way.
Yeah, I think I like to separate it between like optimism and excitement. Like, excitement was at a peak. I've never seen fans more excited about like a team. But I think even in Chicago, people were generally realistic that this was not a Super Bowl team. This was not like a team destined for a deep playoff run. It was a team that finally had its quarterback and should compete for the playoffs. And set, like, a lot of, like, all summer I would tell people, like, let this season set you up to make a real run in 2025. Like, the goal, I thought, for the 2024 Bears was to be the 2023 Texans. Like, that to me was, like, if you achieve that, you're in great shape. Like, because 2019 was more optimism. Like, there were legit people thinking about they could make a Super Bowl run after the 2018 season. Even 2014, I remember there were playoff expectations for that team. That's probably about it in my now 12 years on the beat, as far as like people actually being able to like legitimately think about making the playoffs. So people were really excited this year. Like, the cheer at Soldier Field when Caleb Williams came on the field to take his first snap was like, the only thing I could really compare it to is I remember that 2019 year. Remember the opening game to the NFL season on Thursday night was Bears-Packers to celebrate 100 years. And there was so much expectations for that team, and that defense was so good in 2018. And when the defense came on the field to start that season, like, that roar was pretty awesome. And they actually forced a 3-and-out, which was wild. And then the offense scored 3 points that game.
I knew you were going to do that, or something was coming. It was so inevitable. But they're always I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, but it's amazing because, I mean, again, the fans listening to this know, but like Vikings fans, it's similarly waiting for the other shoe to drop, similarly, but in a different way. I mean, it's interesting. So
I would pull this.
Yeah.
I want to pull this up for a second, Alec, because I was thinking about this because, like, I know the Vikings have a tortured history. Like, I get that. But, like, in, like, I'm looking through here. The Vikings have been to the playoffs 4 times. Let's see. So, okay, we'll say 5 times since 2012. They've made the playoffs.
Sure.
In that stretch, the Bears have made the playoffs twice. And you also have, like, you have, like, a bunch of 8-win teams when, like, the Vikings haven't, like, bottomed out. Like, the Bears are, like, on the precipice of bottoming out and having to, change coaches again.
Frequently.
Like, the team you covered moved down from Mike Zimmer after he went 8-9. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Which I guess the Bears are kind of in position to potentially do that this year. They're not getting 8 wins. But, yeah, it's just it's funny to me because I think of the Vikings not as this beacon or like this team that the Bears should look up to, but compared to the Bears of the past decade, they would love to be the Minnesota Vikings and have as little systemic change as the Vikings have had. And I think the number one thing, which really I was thinking about when you think back to the roundtable, Alec, is like the team you cover has its coach. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that Kevin O'Connell is, like, the guy. And you could say the same thing about Detroit, and you could say the same thing about Green Bay. You absolutely cannot say that about Chicago, which just, you know, like, you obviously want to have the quarterback, but, like, to have the Bears have to go through this again, knowing the rest of the division, like, is set for the next, 3 years probably, that makes things, that makes life even more Bears-like here in Chicago.
Well, it's great that you say that because when we had Colton Pouncey on weeks ago, I mean, he said he made a similar comment of like from afar, Kevin O'Connell has impressed a lot of people, and though the Vikings fans, I mean, I think for the most part really adore him, it is a good reminder of what it's like elsewhere when you don't have a coach with that type of acumen, that type of like emotional awareness, that type of ability to kind of be the leader, be the play caller. Like it's a reminder. But I think like to your comment about the Vikings as a franchise and like how they look. I mean, I think one of the argument or the rebuttal will be like, yeah, but the Cubs won. Yeah, but the Blackhawks have won. Yeah, but the Bears won in the 90s. I mean, excuse me, the Bulls won in the 90s. It's like the Minnesota as a sports town has not had a team win, I think, since the Twins in 1991. And so it's 3 decades of ineptitude in some capacity across the board that I think drives people to where it's either mountaintop or bust in terms of expectation, which is interesting. I will segue to the game in some capacity to Caleb Williams in that offense. And obviously the people listening to this probably know that Shane Waldron, the OC, was recently fired. I watched the Thomas Brown game film. It looked like they were doing some stuff to get DJ Moore the ball more. I mean, how different did it feel to you in terms of what they were doing offensively, how comfortable Caleb looked? Like, could you notice in real time? Did you notice watching the film in aftermath? Was it that different? Walk me through it.
Yeah, no, it felt different in the moment. And certainly watching the tape, you could see like how quickly Caleb Williams getting the ball out, which, as we'll talk about, is paramount this week. He's getting the ball out quick. They're running it a lot. They were really good on first and second down, which allowed them to have their best third down percentage. I think they were 6 for 40 on third down in the previous 3 games, and they went 9 for 16 against the Packers. So you could see that element just so much better. Getting DeAndre Swift involved. It's just like you could just tell Caleb was comfortable. And I think also like you watched that game and you came away with like, okay, Caleb Williams is going to be fine. Right? Like you just were like, you sat there thinking, okay, like everybody can relax. He's going to be okay. Because the previous 2 games, it was hard to have that sentiment as bad as the offense looked. So, yeah, it was all about getting the ball out quick, getting to DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze. And that help the offensive line, that helps Caleb Williams out. And yeah, what's going to be interesting, Alec, is like a lot of those quick throws to the perimeter. Like he was getting them out so fast that whoever was on the end for the Packers just could not even get a hand on it. Like, Brian Flores was watching that. The Vikings defensive ends are watching that. They're outside linebackers. So, like, what's going to be that adjustment? Because, like, I'm watching that. I'm thinking about the Vikings. I'm thinking he's going to throw it into the stomach of some Vikings defender. But it's the chess match, right? Because Thomas Brown knows that. Like, he knows that Flo, if you will, I can call him Flo, right?
Of course,
gonna,
yeah, of course.
Yeah. Look, he might be the next Bears head coach for all we know. So as we'll get to be on a nickname basis with the guy. He does a phenomenal job, and the Bears know that. So I'm curious to see how the Bears react to that.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Van Ginkel already has 2 interceptions returned for touchdowns this year from the edge. So they have ample experience dealing with the quick passing game. I mean, really, and that's what I was going to get to for you is like with you is, I mean, Caleb Williams and really this pass protection unit against this Flores defense. Like, I think that is ultimately probably going to be the game decider. And I don't know, but I was curious in terms of, was this offensive line supposed to be better than it's been? Have injuries derailed it? Like, watching the film, it doesn't impress me as a unit, and I say that very nicely. And with Brian Flores' ability to blitz guys through the A-gap and bother the Titans, the Jaguars, and really every pass protection unit that's not on it, it would be if I were a Bears staffer, I mean, that's where it starts and ends, I think, in terms of giving the Bears a chance this weekend. So I mean, this offensive line, was it supposed to be better than it's been, is a question that I had.
It was probably the number one question mark with a variance, because you were able to talk yourself into circles that Darnell Wright is on the Pro Bowl path, that Braxton Jones has all the tools. And actually, Braxton Jones, I think, has played well. He got pushed back on that final drive, but he missed a couple games with an injury. I think he's actually played all right. Tevin Jenkins, another guy with Pro Bowl talent. Was Nate Davis actually going to be something? And obviously now Nate Davis has been cut. So you were able to, again, talk yourself into a lot of that stuff, and really none of it came through. I will note this, though, and you mentioned the injuries. Coleman Shelton, the center, is the only offensive lineman who has started every game.
Wow.
I think they've had in 10 games, I should know this off the top of my head, but I'm guessing like 7 different offensive line combinations, something like that. I mean, it's been brutal. They played the Patriots without both of their starting tackles, and their number 3 tackle was also out because he got hurt. So they had to move a bunch of guys around. Matt Pryor has kind of stepped in and done a nice job at guard, but then he had to move out to tackle against the Patriots. He moves back to guard. Ryan Bates, he finally comes back. He can start, then he gets concussed against Green Bay. So you take Jake Curran, who was your number 5 tackle. Like, he was on the practice squad, and he has to come in and play guard. Like, that's how bad the injuries have gotten. So I do think that you can't ignore the injuries, but the fact of the matter is, like, the Bears entered this season with a rookie quarterback and decided the biggest investment they were going to make in the offensive line was trading a 5th-round pick for Ryan Bates. And Ryan Bates has played in 2.5 games. So, they took a chance in not, look, if Joe Alt was there at 9, things would have gotten really interesting, I think, in the draft. But they were certainly looking at offensive tackles there. But yeah, this is, and the 3rd-round pick, they drafted a tackle, missed the entire training camp and preseason, and OTAs, and rookie minicamp. So, because the line has been decimated by injuries, because it hasn't played to a high standard, it is easy to point to the fact that they did not invest heavy resources in it in the offseason when they were going to have a rookie quarterback.
It's, I mean, and frankly, like, they added Rome Odunze, obviously, who it seemed, I mean, I've been surprised that they have not thrown to him more. It feels like it's been a lot of Keenan Allen. And then I mean, they obviously they have DJ Moore. They acquired Keenan Allen. So, I mean, it's going to be, for me, watching, and the people listening to this again know, like, Brian Flores against young quarterbacks and pass protections units that have struggled, it has been an absolute grind for those guys. I mean, I go back last year, Justin Fields' first game against Brian Flores was a disaster, and I think he got hurt in that game, and Tyson Bagent ultimately came in, but their running back struggled in pass protection. I mean, it was Brian Flores puts these guys in a blender sometimes. So it's for me, it's going to be interesting to see. DeAndre Swift looks like he didn't practice yesterday with a groin injury. It's early in the week, but what is your expectation there? Because it feels like for Caleb to have some semblance of success, they probably need to run the football a little bit.
Yeah, they're hopeful. Like, I would expect him to play, but maybe you see a little more Roschon Johnson, who had some decent runs against the Vikings in Minnesota last year. They probably should start giving Roschon Johnson the ball a little bit more to take some of the weight off Swift. But you're right. Like, they need to be able to run the ball because if you look at those 3 losses before the Packers, I mean, Caleb's running for his life too often in those games, and the best way to prevent that is hand the ball off and have some success on the ground, which easy for me to say. I'm not the one running against the best run defense in football.
Well, that's really the reason why Brian Flores' defense has been so effective. It's because they've really been successful on early downs. They've put quarterbacks in long downs and distances, and that means longer route concepts, and the pressure's coming. So it will be a really tough challenge for Caleb. And I'm very much looking forward to watching it. I'm curious about the defense because they've always seemed to – Matt Eberflus' defense in the last couple of years have seemed to bother Kevin O'Connell's offenses, and they've been able to stop the run. But you've talked about Flus. Like, has the defense been what it usually is with him, or has that been an issue as well? And so for him, he's had trouble in every aspect of this job.
No, the defense has been fine. The red zone defense is number 1 in the NFL. They're taking the ball away a lot. They have like an incredible, you know how like every coach says if you win the turnover battle, you're probably going to win.
Yeah, of course.
That coach has not met the 2024 Bears because they keep winning the turnover ratio and losing. I looked up like. I had some like crazy stat that one of those like engagement farmers stole and got a lot of. Here we go. The Bears are 101, 24, and 2 when they don't turn the ball over, but they create one on defense since 1940. 3 of those 24 losses have come in the last 3 weeks.
That's
So the good news is they're protecting the football. And they're not giving it away. They're just not winning the games. The problem has been the run defense. The run defense has not been good, and that was before Andrew Billings got hurt and got put on IR, and he's their best run defender. I think a lot of that is your defensive tackles. Just you have these young guys in there who just aren't run stuffers, aren't as good at it. And yeah, Javon Dexter's like. He's got all the physical tools to be a great player. Probably better right now in pass rush than run defense. Zach Pickens starting to play more. I think they're probably hopeful that if Pickens continues to get comfortable, he'll get a little better. He was hurt the first half of the season, but yeah, they just haven't stopped the run very well this year relative to the last 2 seasons, or certainly last season. So that's been the problem. So I mean that's. Like, Jalen Johnson, is he the top 3 corner in football?
That guy, this.
Kyler Gordon.
You know what Jalen Johnson, I've asked you about him going back year. I remember texting you last year at one point asking you about him, and I know the Vikings staff internally, they think very highly of that guy.
Yeah, and I think I responded to your text, like, why are you asking about Jalen Johnson? It's like a Saturday night at 10 o'clock.
Like, there's no way it was that late. It might have even been at the combine.
It may have been combine. Shout out to our good friend Mike DeFabo, who was texting our group chat at like dinner time on Saturday asking us how often are like the teams we cover or how long the practice fields are. The teams you cover. Like Saturday night is our time to go watch college football and enjoy time with your friends and family. Anyways, Jalen Johnson's a phenomenal player. Kyler Gordon, the nickel, I think is one of the most underrated players in the league. So they're gonna they defend the pass well. They're again really good in the red zone, but the problem is the run defense. And like I think the key to this game, Alec, to me, is that Sam Darnold still does have propensity to give the ball away, and like that, I know it's like an easy thing to say, and turn the ball over and give your offense a better chance. But I do think that's the matchup I'm most interested in watching, because to me that's the Bears' best chance to win, is if they make Sam Darnold look like the Sam Darnold of old, and that could go a long way, because the offense, we talked earlier about the offense and how much better it looked. They still scored 19 points. They need help. They need the defense to make some big stops.
Well, I think on both sides. As a really esteemed football viewer, yeah, the turnover margin with both quarterbacks in this game seems to be the stat that probably will indicate it, unless the Bears somehow win that margin for the fourth time in the last few weeks and lose again. And honestly, it's historic. I will say, Jalen Johnson, for as much as I like the guy, I'm very interested to see how they match him up against Justin Jefferson, because I don't think these two have gone against each other a ton over the last couple of years, and I imagine both are going to be very up for that matchup. So I know you said they've been pretty good in pass coverage, but this is a different slate of weapons probably than they've seen, even though the Packers have some young guys. So how they try to defend the pass, to me, is always interesting from this end. So we'll see. Do you have a prediction?
Do you know it's snowing here? Is it snowing up there, Alec?
Of course, it's Minnesota. It's always snowing.
Yeah. I'm looking out my window. We got a good coat of snow out here. Could get some bear weather on Sunday.
I don't think I've gotten to see a snow. Yeah.
That reminds me. I need you to send me your prediction for the game. I'm gonna message you this so you don't forget. This is good. This is good radio. This is good podcasting.
Yeah, this is why people listen.
This is gonna be Is this gonna be the highest rated Alec Lewis show?
I don't know. You came in with Jersey Mike's. It definitely gave it a chance. But I don't know. We had a pretty good run last Thursday. So it's gonna be tough sledding.
Well, we'll see what we can do. So I will tell you, my colleague John Greenberg just sent me his prediction, and he picked the Bears.
Wow.
And I do, you sit here and you ask yourself, they have to win at some point. They're just too much talent on the field. But I said that going into Arizona, I said that going against New England, they lost both those games. Although now Arizona, we think, is actually decent. Here's the thing. You look at the schedule, Alec. This game is their Bears. They have 7 games left. I would say only 2 right now I could give them a legitimate shot to win. And that's this one and when they play the Seahawks the day after Christmas. That's it. Because they've got 2 against the Lions. And I know Bears fans are going to jump in the YouTube comments right now and yell at me for not pointing out the Bears beat the Lions handily at Soldier Field last year and should have beat them at Ford Field. Whatever. The Lions are a juggernaut. They play at San Francisco and then at Minnesota and at Lambeau. It's just this is the game. They really this is a huge opportunity for them to, get off this losing streak. And I still cannot pick them to win because, they haven't given me any reason to.
Maybe, I was going to say, so are you doing it or not?
3.5.
As I was listening to you, I'm like, is it go or don't?
It was a build-up. Yeah. Listen, that's a little tease you say in the audio industry. You got to build things up. You got to keep your listeners on a hook. No, I'm not going to pick the Bears to win. I might pick them to cover as like a little bit of a hedge. But I think the Flores defense against this offensive line and a rookie quarterback is just going to be too much. And I will see how many jokes I can make in the press box about how could we be looking at the Bears' future head coach.
I'm with you. Like I have a hard time thinking that pass protection unit and the rookie quarterback and Thomas Brown in general. You know, it was interesting. Brian Flores said earlier this week that the whole defensive staff watched that pass game film together, which I don't know if that happens all the time, but I never really heard much of that. I feel like the Vikings need a little bit of, after facing the Titans, the Jaguars, the Colts. I mean, those teams are inept, and so to have a little motivation of playing against a highly touted quarterback within the division, I think it's going to kind of rev them up a little bit. So I'm a homer. I mean, I'm a homer, so I think the Vikings are going to win. But yeah,
we had a fun stretch where in back-to-back weeks, the opposing beat writer picked their team, and the Bears won those games handily. It was Carolina and L.A., and so all the Bears fans are like, oh, like all these opposing beat writers always, like they're homers and blah, blah, blah. And then like now they're on this losing streak. And actually Chad, our good friend Chad Graff, picked the Bears to beat the Patriots. And what an idiot he is. Obviously New England was going to win that game, 19-3 as everybody expected.
You said you're going to be making jokes in the press box.
I don't know. I hope it's a fun game.
Yeah, you said you're making jokes in the press box about,
I'm
about
always
Brian
making jokes
Flores.
in the press box.
I will be making jokes about the food in the press box because it's atrocious.
Okay, the spread has gotten better. I will say that. And there is Connie's Pizza after the game, which is kind of a nice touch.
Yeah, that's great. But the bar is... The bar's on the floor.
Yeah, it's Soldier Field. I mean, yeah, it's gotten better over the last year.
Did we drop again? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Never recording here again. What an atrocious back and forth. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Kevin, appreciate you hopping on. Glad you. I thought you were going to pick the Bears. I thought you were going to get close. You made it seem like it. So thanks for hopping on.
No, I'm happy to. It was an honor and a privilege, and I hope the listeners of the Alec Lewis Show will welcome me back later this season, and we can continue talking about future Bears head coach Brian Flores.
You're gonna get. You said the engagement. You're gonna get picked up on that. You're too credible to be throwing that.
If they let me on Colton Pouncey's podcast, I might make a future Bears head coach Ben Johnson.
So that's your
if I'm
bit.
on the Hogan Johns podcast. Yeah, I might just talk about how Matt Eberflus is going to stay, and the Bears are going to keep rolling. Listen, one of the keys to this job, young man, as I will talk in patronizing fashion before I leave your podcast, is you need to give yourself a lot of outs, right? I one time made a list and published 39 coach candidates for the Bears head coaching position, and guess what? Matt Nagy was on that list, and he got the job. So I got it. So I will sit here, and if the Bears are going to change head coaches, I'm happy to throw out as many. You know what, Alec? You could be the next head coach of the Bears.
Yeah, it's like barring unexpected change, the next head coach could be literally anybody. No,
could be anybody. Could be anybody. And barring change. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, you give
Bears
yourself
could
an
win
out.
on Sunday.
They could. There's no question they could. Kevin, thanks for hopping on. I will see you soon. Looking forward to it. That'll do it for the conversation with Kevin Fishbain. Appreciate you guys listening. Hope you guys enjoyed that. It was fun for me to do it. Fun for Kevin and me to talk. Always appreciate his time, his insight. It's always funny. It's always a very interesting perspective that I don't know. I think in some ways it allows me to think about this Vikings franchise in a specific way. So, hope you guys enjoyed that. We will be back early next week. As I said on the Tuesday show, going to have a little bit of an announcement next week that I think will be pretty fun. So stay tuned for that. Follow the writing this weekend. Looking forward to, we'll have a preview out with John Krasinski as we do every week over at theathletic.com. So look forward to that. And we will see you guys soon. Thank you guys for listening to the Alec Lewis Show.